I love seeing people in jerseys, but there's one issue here. I don't have my jersey on. So let me go get my jersey on here, all right? Thank you, thank you. You didn't have to clap. It's all good. Thank you. It's a little bit stinky right now. It's a game-worn jersey, so it's authentic, and it's a little bit smelly. Haven't washed it since the last game on April 5th, 2018, so it's a little bit stinky, just so you know. Face it, everyone has faced adversity in their life, but it's how you respond that matters. And for me, I'm going to give you 2 stories in my life where I've faced adversity and had to overcome challenges that lots of people have in their life as well. Challenges of death, challenges of losing loved ones, challenges of injuries, adversity, lots of things that many people in here have experienced before. So for me as an individual, this, we're going to have to, perfect, all right. So we're going to have to go, we'll watch the video another 4 more times, okay, and then we'll go through it. So we're going to give some background info from whereabouts I came from, how I am here today, and what led me to this place. So for me, I was born in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and for a lot, it's okay. It's an actual city of 30,000 people. They're known as the Friendly City, and they also have a big moose in the middle of the town. And so that is like the heart of Moose Jaw. So I was born there June 10th, 1997. And I was raised into a wonderful family. I am very thankful. Both my parents together for 30 years, married, and I was raised right into a wonderful family, both nurses by trade, and they brought me and instilled values in me that are still with me today. So I can't thank them enough for bringing me there. In Moose Jaw, I was a huge hockey fan. I lived, died, and breathed hockey. I obviously had it forced upon me at a young age, not deciding this lifestyle, but I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it. My dad was a former hockey player. My mom grew up watching hockey, loving it. She was really into softball, basketball. She was quite the athlete as well, but my dad was a big hockey and football guy. And so for me, I lived, breathed, and died hockey. At the age of 4, I ended up getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And for me, this was an emotional period of time in my life. As a 4-year-old, you wouldn't expect to get a disease, and especially as a family and parents, you wouldn't expect to have your child with the disease. So I was the only child in my family, and I still am the only child in my family. They stopped after me because I was a lot of work. But I'm just kidding. I was a treat to them, I guess. But once I got diagnosed with diabetes, they took a step back and realized, okay, maybe we shouldn't have another one in here just in case we have 2. It'd be a lot of work. So anyways, I was at my babysitter's that day, and it was a normal day. I was ready to go. I had a hockey game that night with my dad in the basement. I was actually sitting on the couch flying to San Jose at my babysitter's house. And for me, that was super exciting because every night I went home, I'd play a game with my dad. We'd play roller hockey in the basement, and I'd get on my rollerblades. I'd go around. We'd have a light show. We'd have tunes blaring, and then we'd have O Canada, play the game. So anyways, I was the Calgary Flames, and we were going to San Jose Sharks to play the Sharks. So I sat on the couch the whole day. But in the morning, we had an issue because I kept on getting up and had to go get water. And as I went to get water, I'd get milk because I loved milk. I was a big milk guy. And so I'd get milk from my babysitter and ended up drinking a full 4-liter gallon of milk by lunch. Obviously, I went to the bathroom multiple times. She said that she thinks it was about 12 times I went to the bathroom. And so she called my dad and my mom and was like, look, you need to get Kaleb now. There's something wrong with him. And with a phone call as a parent, they knew that I was the most friendliest, happiest child and like what would be wrong. And then she said that I went to the bathroom over a dozen times and I drank a 4-liter gallon of milk. So for them, they're like, okay, something's wrong with him. We got to go pick him up. So my dad ended up coming to pick me up, and I went home. And as I was at home, I ended up locking myself in the bathroom. And in the bathroom, had my toothbrush, and I was putting water into my mouth because I was that thirsty and needed water. So I'm underneath the sink, putting the water in my mouth, and my dad was saying, open up, and I was too thirsty to even open up the door. So that was a battle for about 10 minutes, and he's like, just open the door. So I opened the door, and my stomach was bloated full of water. So I got rushed to the hospital. And when I got there, I got poked, prod with every needle out in sight, and I didn't like it. My time in the hospital was really rough for me. At one point, I said to my parents, I hate this doctor's house. I'm going to throw this chair through the window so I get sent home. So it was not a nice time in the hospital for me. Just as the third day in the hospital, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. My parents did extensive training, and I was able to go home that day. And I was so happy I got sent to that doctor's house. I was so happy. So I go home just to find out 20 minutes later I need another needle. My parents were like, come with us, let's go to our bedroom, and you have to lay on the bed here and take off your clothes, and we have to give you a needle in your bum. And as a 4-year-old, that's hard enough to fathom. And so my parents had to pin me down on the bed for a constant month. And it was hide and go seek, but I didn't want to be found. It was extremely, extremely hard. As a 4-year-old, just anyone that has 4-year-old siblings or had siblings that are 4-year-old or children that are 4 years old or grandchildren, imagine them having to go through this process of getting needles, not once, but like 5 to 6 times a day. This wasn't an easy task for my parents. At one point, I challenged them. I was like, you guys don't love me. You're hurting me. Why are you doing this to me? You don't love me. You guys are being rude to me. You don't love me. This isn't fair. Why me? Why are you guys doing this to me? And so this was my first face of adversity at the age of 4 years old, being a type 1 diabetic. Growing up, I had a lot of coaches cut me from teams. People think of Bobby Clark as a hockey influence with type 1 diabetes, and the doctors even said, like, he's going to have a rough life, like he might have to quit his activities or lessen it down a bit. So my parents were like, well, what about Bobby Clark? And he's like, yeah, but Bobby Clark didn't take good care of his diabetes. He made excuses for Bobby Clark, and even though the doctor had no reference to Bobby Clark whatsoever, he was making excuses already. So this happened throughout my life. I ended up getting cut from some major teams because of my diabetes, and it wasn't that I wasn't a good player. I ended up being one of the best at the camp. It was just that I had diabetes, and I was known as the kid with diabetes. So anyways, the one thing that I chose throughout this process was choosing the positive over the negative. Because you're faced with these kind of situations in life, and for me, I took the positive road and was like, look, like if I can manage my diabetes and not let it manage me, and show people that I can do this, then I'll be successful. And so I took my ideas and I continued to playing hockey. I went against what doctors were saying, how I should. I actually had one scout that is in the NHL right now. I was trying out for his AAA team, and he's with the Avalanche. And we're actually great friends now. But believe it or not, he cut me from the team because of my diabetes and said, look, I think you should go into bowling. It's a less aggressive sport. And at the camp, I literally was like one of the top kids. I had the most points at the camp. And so I'm sitting in the room, one-on-one with this coach after, because you usually have your meetings with the coach after. And he's like, look, we're not going to take you, but I think you should maybe try something different like bowling because you're diabetes. And I was like, what was the issue during camp? He's like, nothing. And I was like, so how is it an issue throughout the season? And this is 8-year-old Kaleb questioning him, why is he doing this? And he said, look, you might be a distraction to the team. It's not fair to your teammates that you have diabetes, and it could inhibit their ability to play. So that was one way. And I ended up playing against him that season and got a hat trick later on, just kind of showing him up. You missed out. So growing up, I never wanted diabetes to define me or anything like that. I wanted to be the kid that did everything. So that's my buddy, best friend, and myself, Wyatt Tyndall. I'd go to his lake. I'd have sleepovers. I would go on road trips with my other friends' families. Fortunate enough, his dad is a firefighter, and he would take care of me if I went by myself with them on trips. I was very independent, and diabetes made me become very independent at a very young age. Grade 1, I had a cell phone, and for some of you in this room, you know how big cell phones are in 2003? They're bricks, size of this mic. So I'm talking brick. And so I was the cool kid in class. Grade 1, I moved to Saskatoon, and I was considered the cool kid because I had a cell phone, and nobody had a cell phone. But the only rule was that you had to be a diabetic to use a cell phone, so nobody got to touch it, other than me. I played hockey at the highest level possible throughout my whole career. After the stint of being cut in the AAA summer season when I was 8, everybody took note of that and was like, okay, he can still play, so we're going to take him. So after that, I ended up being the highest level possible on every elite team growing up. And I ended up working my way up to play junior A hockey in Notre Dame with the Notre Dame Hounds. And it's a very prestigious institution they have there and program. And so my first year there, I didn't really know what to expect, and it was an amazing experience. It was like walking into the Hockey Hall of Fame kind of thing, because the names that were up on that wall are unbelievable. Like, unbelievable names, like Curtis Joseph, Wendell Clark, Vincent LeCavier, like unbelievable names. Barry Trotz for the coaches out there. And this program was unbelievable. They treated me absolute gold. I was assistant captain my second year, and I also was able to give back to the community while I was there. I joined on with Jdrf and became a volunteer there, a national ambassador for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which is a program for type 1 diabetic children. And it was something very special for me to experience that and give back to the diabetic community that I once never had. So growing up, I'd always give back, and community was a big piece of me. Since my parents were both nurses by trade, I was able to go to their care home and actually help out there with residents and play games and kind of get accustomed to that lifestyle of spending time with other people that you're not really familiar with. So for me, that was a really big piece of what developed me to be the person that I am today. And by joining on with Jdrf when I was 18 and becoming a national ambassador, I took on a role that also gave back to the diabetic community, which is really close to my home and my heart. And so from there, I was in Notre Dame, sitting in Wilcox, Saskatchewan of 400 people, and I wanted to do something bigger than myself. And I was like, okay, I'm giving back to the diabetic community. I'm trying to give back as much as I can, but there's still a piece of me that wanted to do something more. And it kept on coming back to something with diabetes. So for me, I ended up creating a name called Dahlgren's Diabetes. And I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but I wanted to mentor young children. And so I thought, in a town of 400 people, it's probably not going to get big, and not anything against Notre Dame, but it's probably not going to get that big. And so I wanted to have a major impact on type 1 diabetic children. I wanted to be their role model, a person that I never had growing up. Bobby Clark was too old for me, and Max Domi was too young. We're the same couple years apart, Max Domi and myself. And so there really wasn't that figure to look up to. There wasn't much awareness. There wasn't much advocacy for type 1 diabetes. So I wanted to create this program. So I ended up going into my coach's office at the end of the year. I was assistant captain, as you saw, my second year. And third year, I was going to be named captain. The whole team knew it. The coach has told me before that I was going to be named captain. And he said at the year-end meeting, we'll talk and discuss your role as captain. So I knew going into this meeting that I was going to get named captain. I ended up leaving the meeting asking for a trade. And that was probably the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life, because I was at a prestigious program, I was at a prestigious school, I would have been named captain. It would have been an amazing year. I had nothing against the school program, the staff, my teammates, but I just wanted to do something bigger than myself. And I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it in that setting. So I ended up asking for a trade. My coach thankfully understood and was like, you know what, this is something that you really are passionate about. We'll make it work, and we'll move you to a bigger center. So I ended up getting traded to Humboldt Broncos on July 7th, 2017. And so for me, got the phone call from Darcy Hogan, my coach at the time, and he was like, hi, Kaleb, like, it's awesome to have you here. Like, we're so excited you're going to be our go-to guy this year and a leader in the community, and I heard about your Dahlgren's diabetes. Can you fill me in on this? So I filled him in, and I said, it's a program for type 1 diabetic children. It's to give back, to be a mentor, to be the role model that I never had. I'd like to bring them out to a game, and I'd like to give them a pregame meal at a local restaurant. I don't know if that's possible, but a discount or a meal, a pregame meal at a restaurant. Then come to the game, watch warm-ups, wear a diabetes jersey, and then they also get to participate in a ceremonial face-off, drop a puck. And then as I was saying this, I was like, this is a lot. And so first call with the new coach, this is a lot. And I was like, I also want to meet with them after the game, give them some Bronco gear, some diabetes swag, if you want to call it that, and then talk to them about my experience with type 1 diabetes and be that role model for those children, and do even a presentation with their team or school. And then it was a long pause, and I was like, okay, in my mind, this isn't a good idea. I probably shouldn't sell this. And he said, we're in. We are 100% in. So right there, that really meant the world to me. That was the deciding factor for me. I was like, this is the right place. I came to the right place. The coach knows that this program could be a big hit, and he knows that it can take off and I can impact children's lives while still playing hockey at an elite level, still have the opportunity to go play NCAA or Division I or U Sports. And I still had my dreams, and I still had the program that's something bigger than me. So Dahlgren Diabetes program started, and it really took off. It was such an amazing program, and I'm continuing it today at York University. And I have 15 diabetes right now, and I continue to keep in touch with them daily, even weekly, I'd say, weekly now. And we have a Facebook group chat, and I post in there frequently. I message their families. I try to stay in touch as much as I can. And so it's a really great, transition for me from being a Jdrf ambassador to also being in diabetes. So when I got to Humboldt, I was able to kind of think about what I wanted my last year to be. It was my 20-year-old season. What mark do I want to leave on my community, on my teammates, on the program, on my staff, my family, myself? How do I want to leave my last season of junior? Even hockey season, potentially, if I don't get committed to any school. How do I want to leave it? So I put up these two posters that I individually draw, and it's not that good of drawing, but I drew them. And first one says, take action for your passion. And it has a nice rhyme to it, but it's true. And for me, my passion was giving back to the community. My passion was the hockey. It was doing something bigger than myself, but still being a leader. I wanted to be the best person I could be. And that was in all wakes of life. My new billet family, my teammates, my roommates, my relationships, and all of that. And then the other one was control the things you can control. I think this is a constant reminder for everybody in this room to control the things you can control, because we get caught up in a lot of things. Things that you can control are your attitude, work ethic, perspective, the way that you treat other people. Your work ethic is a really big piece of it, because what you put in is what you can control. You can't control other people. You can't control other circumstances. You can't control what the coach thinks, what your parents think. You only can control yourself. So those two were in front of my light switch, so every time I walked out of the room, I'd see them. And I modeled my season around that. And so for me, I ended up volunteering. Well, actually, we're going to go back to my billet family. I had a billet family here, and if anyone's lived away from home, I moved away when I was 16, and I've lived away home ever since. And billet families are so crucial in the junior hockey, AAA hockey experience, because they are your family. So under our house, we had 10 beings, 2 dogs, 3 children, 3 billets, and 2 parents. And the house was absolutely chaotic, but it was the best chaos I loved. I loved it. Being an only child and never having experienced brothers or sisters, that was like the best experience for me to have, and it really did change me. I lived with 2 other guys that were on the men's hockey team. It was Stephen Wack and Bryce Fisk. Fortunately, Stephen Wack isn't here today. Him and I were literally best buds. We probably, everybody would say we'd be inseparable, and we were. It was actually his birthday that passed last week, and I wished him a little happy birthday to his mom, and they said that they were celebrating it with Stephen. And it just meant a lot because they went out to his favorite bar, and that's Stephen. And so for me, he was an unbelievable dude, and he taught me many things. And so I was fortunate enough to experience that with him. And it was really something special for me and time because I had to have my billet family, and they were my family. It wasn't just like they're just people that you live with. They were my family. And so for me, it was really special. I had the best season yet. That was the best season I could have had. My teammates were unbelievable. People might have seen some stuff regarding the Humboldt Broncos and how we were a tight-knit family. We truly were a tight-knit family. I think a lot of teams try to get that identity as you want to be tight-knit, a family, you want to be close. And we were that family. We were that team. And it was something so special to be a part of. And to be a leader on that team was another piece that I never took for granted whatsoever. And so it was the best season yet for the team, and it was one of the best seasons individually as well. I ended up being in a scoring role for the first half of the season. I was a point per game, and I was well known in Notre Dame as my shutdown role. I used to be a shutdown center and played against every team's elite number one line. And so for me, I changed my role, and I became a top 6 forward, and that was something unique. And I ended up having a great start of the year and got injured. And then when I came back, I took on the shutdown role because our coach needed that person because we traded away our original guy that was a shutdown role. So I ended up going back to that in the end of the year after my injury. But it was honestly the best season I've ever had in my hockey career. It was the perfect way to end, and it was based on those morals. And not only was I playing hockey at elite level, had a great time with my billets, my teammates, it also was something bigger than that. Like I said, I wanted to be involved in the community. So the community of Humboldt has 5,000 people, and I would volunteer for sure 3 times a week. And for some junior players, that's a lot, but you really have unlimited time. There's not much that you have going on other than practice, working out, and team meetings. And so I volunteered with the Special Olympics hockey team, and that's every Monday we would go out and play with them, and it was a player-coach role I had. And so I ended up winning an award with them for Player Coach of the Year. But it was an unbelievable experience just going out with them and seeing the way that they think the game and the way that they perceive life. And it taught me lessons to myself that I gained throughout going to my parents' experience with work and then also spending time with them. Out of there, I created a taxi crew with them. And so the taxi crew was a crew that was formulated at the start of the year. So I'll give you a little background on this taxi crew because some people are like, well, what's a taxi crew? So I was driving to the second game of the season. And after volunteering with the Special Olympics floor hockey team, I ended up creating some bonds with some of them. And I knew majority of their names because they would always say like, hi, how's it going? Like, my name's Bernard, I'm Bernard. And so you start to get an idea of their name. And so for me, I was like, okay, I know your name, all right. So I'm driving down the street and I like pull over, and one on the far right is named Dallas. And he was riding his bike to the game. He was getting there like pretty early because I'm driving to the game early to play, and he's biking there. So I was like, you must go early. So I kind of pulled over on the road, and I was like, Dallas, do you bike to every game? He's like, yes, I always bike to every game, even in the winter. And I was like, why? He's like, well, because our home's bus doesn't leave until, like, they don't get to the rink until, like, 5 minutes during the game, like, into the game, and then it leaves with 5 minutes left. So I missed, like, the best part and the last part. And I was like, well, that's not really fair. And he's like, well, everyone has early bedtimes, you know. I was like, I guess, you're right. And so I was like, well, why don't I just drive you to the game? I was like, since you're biking, it's going to get cold. Like, Saskatchewan right now is minus 40. So everybody complaining about the weather right now, it's not that bad. So I'm like, it's going to get cold. Like, I'll just drive you to the game. He's like, no, it's fine. I was like, no, like, seriously, like, don't be ridiculous. I'll drive you to the game. I was like, get 3 of your friends, and if you're okay with leaving early, like this time, like, I would pick you up at 5 for a 7 o'clock game. If you're okay with that, and then stay an additional half an hour after, I'll take you guys there and back. And Dallas instantly got a huge smile. He's like, okay, let's do it. Deal. So I ended up forming a taxi crew, and it was a running joke all year long. But every home game, I took this group in my vehicle to and from the games. And the experiences that I've had with them, and it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable how emphatic they are and how big of fans they truly are of the Broncos. They all have Bronco jerseys, as you can tell. And then I'm also getting them a Dahlgren Bronco jersey this summer as their gift. I really want to leave a lasting impact on their life, and I think that they tell me that I'm their favorite player, but they're probably just saying it because I'm giving them rides. But I want to leave a lasting legacy on them. I also volunteered at a grade 5 classroom, and I also had one of my diabetes in the classroom, so I ended up going and do a presentation at the classroom, and it was for my diabetic and my diabetes Duke, and I'm at the classroom doing a speech, and then after, the teacher came up to me, she's like, look, like, the kids absolutely loved you. This was the best they've ever listened to anybody. Do you want to be, like, in our classroom and volunteer? And so I was like, at the time, obviously take action for your passion and the things you can control. And I was like, yeah, like, what day, like, is it okay if I can plan a day that works for me to come? She's like, yeah, anytime. So every Wednesday morning, I volunteer at the classroom from the 9 a.m. bell till 12 o'clock lunch. And it was, like I said, another great experience being involved in the community and helping give back to children. It also showed me what life is like as a teacher, as a parent, and I also was able to build more skills through that. And on to my Sundays, I was a rec hockey coach. And so rec hockey in Humboldt is for children that either are underprivileged and don't have enough money to afford hockey, or are too busy, or have an inability, or their family has stuff going on. So for me, it was a program to teach children how to learn, skate, and play the game of hockey, the game that I loved and I wanted to give back. So at the start of the year, it was ran by our assistant coach, Mark Cross. And then throughout the year, I realized he never had a day off. And I was like, well, this isn't fair. Like, you're working 7 days a week. And he's like, it's okay. I was like, no, like, I'll take it over kind of thing. So I ended up letting him have days off. I took it over in December. And then after that, I ended up taking over the whole thing because the kids liked me more, I guess. But he went out for one session. They're like, where's Kaleb? So I don't know what it was, but I probably paid the kids under the table or something to say it. But he passed it on to me, and I ran with it. And it was such a great event seeing kids form a passion for the game and still being a part of that Humboldt community. It's that feeling of giving back, the feeling of being a part of something more than yourself, the identity to be more than just a Humboldt Bronco. I wanted to be the Humboldt Bronco that was part of Humboldt. It wasn't just the Humboldt Bronco. And then following that, I volunteered at the Villa. So the Villa is a care home for people who are in their later stages of life. And so I ended up forming a good relationship with Barb, and I'd go to the Villa approximately once a month, so it wasn't every week, but it was still a great experience, and this has brought back my roots to my family. Whenever I went there, I was like, oh, I'm walking into my place as a 5-year-old Kaleb going to hang out with some residents. And so I think for me, it was a great time, and it brought back some old memories for me. And I ended up forming a bond with Barb, and she knitted me an Afghan. And she was trying to get it done for the end of the season as my 20-year-old gift, like going away gift. and she ended up giving it to me in an accident. And so I used the Afghan as my kind of cover for my bed in the hospital, and she ended up loving that. Wasn't able to see me, so she really, really was an amazing person and treated me with tons of respect. And every time I went and visit with her, it was something special. April 6th, 2018. A day I'll never forget. That's the scene of the accident, for those of you that don't know. I was on the bus, and I lost 16 people I consider family. And the worst part about it was that it was a normal day. It wasn't a day where you knew something was off, there was something wrong. It was just a normal day. We were ready to go, playing against Nipawin in playoffs, and we had a video meeting and packed up the bus and joking around, having fun. We were really loose for being down with 3-1 in the series, but it could have been the other way. We could have been up 3-1. We blew 2 leads that led into overtime that they won, so it literally could have been 3-1 us in that series. And so we ended up colliding with a semi, and we hit the trailer of the semi. And for me, I remember it vividly. I was sitting in row 13, aisle seat, left side, driver's side, and the person in front of me survived. The person behind me passed away. Behind him passed away. Kitty corner to me passed away. Beside me passed away. Kitty corner to the right behind me was alive. And so there was no rhyme or reason of who survived and who didn't survive. And I literally remember it all so vividly. I had my headphones in, and I was changing a song on my phone, and then black. And that's it. 4 days passed, and then I finally kind of came to my senses. And so on the scene, my first responder told me, he said that I was walking around helping people. And so I have no recollection of this. I literally remember everything right up to the blackness. And then I remember waking up in the hospital 3 days later. So on the scene, I guess I was walking around, and I gave somebody my jacket, and I was cold. I don't know who I gave my jacket to. I haven't seen it since. But I gave my jacket to somebody, and he said I was helping people, and I was walking around making sure everybody was okay. So my first responder came up to me. He's like, "Are you all right?" And at the time, I was bleeding from my skull, and I was hunched over, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like, take care of other people. He's like, no, like, you need to get on a stretcher now. Like, you're not looking fine. I'm like, no, I'm fine. He's like, what hurts? And I was like, oh, just my neck and my back. And he's like, no, like, you don't look okay. Like, stay there. Like, stop moving. Like, literally stay there. And so then I kind of, I guess, just was standing there while they went and brought a stretcher. And so they loaded me on a stretcher, and I said, my name's Kaleb Dahlgren. I'm 20 years old, type 1 diabetic. Thank you for your help. And then as they loaded me into the ambulance, I said, please make sure you take care of other people. I don't need this. Make sure you take care of the other people first. And then they loaded me into ambulance. And he said, in a wake of all the horror and tragedy, I was calm and worried about other people before myself. And he said that stuck with him. He's never had a person do that in his experience of being a first responder. And he said, the fact that I wanted other people to get help before me showed that I was selfless and wanted to be not that guy to get, oh, pick me, like I'm hurting. Like I wanted other people, and that was where my leadership kind of came out. And so it wasn't an easy time whatsoever. My injuries were quite severe for some people, including myself. And I'm just going to go here. So I suffered a fractured skull and a puncture wound in my skull. Sorry if the images are graphic. For those people, you can look away. I suffered a fractured skull, a puncture wound, a degloving, and that's where it's like road rash of my head. I also had 2 broken vertebrae in my neck, 3 others compressed, 4 broken vertebrae in my back. I also had ligament damage, nerve damage in my neck, and blood clots. And so that was and also a brain injury. And so all these are very severe injuries individually, but collectively, they're very, very severe. So what I think happened in the accident was that I was sitting in the aisle seat, and since this was the right side of my head, I was sitting on the left side of the aisle, like left side of the bus, as you can imagine. And so I was 3 rows from the very, very back, and as I'm sitting down, I feel like we collided with the semi, and then I flew forward in my seat. And in the hospital, I was going to include the picture, but you can't really see it. I had 5C engraved right on my right side, right in my eye. And so I think that I flew forward up to row 5 from row 13. And obviously, I would have hit my side of my head, degloving it. And thankfully, I am the way I am today. My doctor, my medical MD doctor, my GP, general prac, my parents got a phone call from him in the hospital. And he said that I am very, very, very sorry for Kaleb. Like, I am extremely sorry. I know he's never going to be the same. And my parents are like, we understand. It's such a tragic situation. There's no words that can describe it. Like, we understand your condolences. Thank you. He's like, no, like, I know Kaleb doesn't remember you. I know that he will never remember you. Like, I am so sorry. And my dad was like, what do you mean, never will remember me? Or us? He's talking to us right now. And he's like, no, there's no way. There is no way he is talking to you right now. He's like, I'm looking at the image right now. There's no way. And so my dad's like, no, you need to come to the hospital now. So I ended up walking in the room, and this is still in the 3-day, 4-day phase I don't remember. I was like, hi, Dr. Likos, how's it going? And he ended up falling to the floor and started bawling, absolutely bawling. My dad said he's never seen a man cry as much as he was crying before. And according to my doctor and many other neurologists that I've seen and other specialists, I should be in a vegetative state, not knowing how to walk, talk, or even my name, not remembering anything from before the accident, and having no signs of any improvement after the accident, based on the image of my brain. And I should have been paralyzed from my neck down due to the severity of my vertebrae being cracked. So every day before the accident, I was more than happy and blessed, and always lived life to the fullest, because having diabetes, I chose the positive over the negative route. But then with this, even instilled it more in me, that I am very lucky. But the worst part of this all was not the injuries or the severity of it. The worst part of it all was that I lost 16 people I consider family. And I don't know if anyone's ever lost 16 people that you consider family at once, but there's no emotion to describe it. And I call them family because you're with them every single day. And it's not like, hi, bye. It's literally like you're with them having conversation. You're telling jokes. You're sharing stories. You're having a good time. You're enjoying it. And those 16 people that aren't here and the 29 that were on the bus, I considered family. And being the only child, not having any brothers or sisters, I literally consider them family. And so another hard part about it was the funeral aspect. Being in the hospital, I wasn't able to be cleared to go to funerals. So most people go to funerals, and that's like their kind of farewell. It's like the last goodbye type of thing. But for me, I never got that. And that still is a hard part. And for me, I sometimes still think about them, and I go through their social media, and I do have a farewell through their social media, but it's still a hard part because you never really got to like say goodbye to them. And so I always treated everybody how I wanted to be treated. And so I had no regrets about anything. Everyone knew where they stood with me, and everybody knew that I loved them and cared about them through my actions, through what I did for them, through what I told them, through the way that I treated them. So I have nothing really to hold back or any regrets about anything. I'm actually very thankful that I lived that kind of lifestyle. And so to have this image now for the rest of my life and have those 13 survivors that still are my family, we're really there trying to support each other and trying to be there for each other throughout all of this, because nobody deserves to go through any tragedy whatsoever. But it does happen to people, and it is a part of life, and that's the worst part about it. It is a part of life. And so for me, I chose to find the positive and negative and control the things I can control. And this started from the start of my season and way before that, but it was really ingrained at the start of the season, controlling the things I can control. So I didn't have any remorse for the semi-driver, for the company, for outside aspects. I can't control the accident. I can't control the circumstances, so why should I be mad at that? Why should I have anger and hatred towards something that I can't control? And for a lot of people, they're still grasping that concept. But it's so inhibited. Oh, sorry, there's a brain injury. It's very inhibited. Okay, we're not going to say the word. It doesn't enable the right mindset. And so for me, the right mindset is, what can I do? I've been given a very, very negative situation that most people can't even imagine. What can I do to make this something positive? As you can see, lots of things have been positive that came out of this. Green Shirt Day, the donor of lungs and kidneys. That's huge. That's such a big thing that came out of this. And even something as simple as the girl on the bench. Or there's so many amazing things. And the guys that did survive this are truly making the most of their lives. They're truly finding the most negative situation they've probably encountered and making it into something positive and something special for other people. So I'm proud of all the survivors, and I'm even more proud of the ones that still aren't here today, and I still love them and consider them as my family. I was in the hospital for 21 days, and for some people that's a lot, for others it's not a lot. There's a lot of people going through struggles with life, circumstances, and they're in the hospital daily. And so for me, 21 days wasn't really that long. The Afghan is the one that Barb made for me, just referring back to the old photo. It's the one that Barb made for me. And I ended up convincing my physiotherapist, in all my delusion of not remembering anything, I ended up convincing my physiotherapist to take me down and have a physio session on the 4th day after the accident. With all the extent of my injuries, they thought I was ridiculous, and I probably wasn't in the right frame for it, but I wanted to do that because I felt like my legs were getting small, and hockey season was just around the corner next year. This is just a video of me getting back into the groove. She asked what was hurting, and I said, just my neck and back, but it should be hurting. And this is where I started to enjoy my grind. And it's a saying that kind of came up in the hospital, but it really didn't resonate until I ended up getting a shirt. The LA Kings sent me a shirt, and it said LA Kings. And then on the back, it said, enjoy the grind. And I kind of found it comical, because I was like, they're not wrong. Like, this is a grind. And everybody has their own grind. And the shirt meant more than just a shirt to me. Like it was more than just a shirt. The idea that enjoy the grind is unlimited. It could move to literally anything: work, school, family, relationships, hockey, sports. Everybody has their own grind, no matter what. Whether it's going to work from 9 to 5, providing for your family, that's a grind. Going to school, that's a grind. Receiving a degree, that's a grind. Doing sports, that's a grind. Working out, it's a grind. So everybody has their own grind, and to enjoy it is something special, because a lot of people have it, but they don't enjoy it. So to find the positive in that kind of grind that you're in is something really special. So that shirt became kind of the trademark of my healing process. And for me, that was something that I needed, and it was something that I think a lot of others needed as well, just to have that mindset, that mentality that I'm going to make today better, so then tomorrow's even better than that. And so for me, that was really big. The support was literally outstanding. I've never ever witnessed or experienced anything like that in my lifetime. I can't say how thankful I am for all the support that I received. Words can't do justice to it. I literally can't. It helped everything. It helped me, helped all the survivors, it helped the families. And it was unbelievable. It was truly unbelievable. Like, I am extremely, extremely thankful and grateful to have all the support that I did. This photo is a picture of me and some of my best buds. They literally put their life on hold. They were writing midterms, school was going, finals they were writing as well, not midterms, finals. And they literally put their life on hold to come for me. Not only them, my family, my girlfriend at the time, everybody put their life on hold for me to heal and to help me become a better person and to heal from this traumatic injuries that I suffered, and not only injuries, but the mental injuries as well, and emotional injuries. And so the support from everybody did not go unnoticed. I read every single letter I received. I've tried to read every single message I've received. I haven't gone through Facebook yet. I'm still trying to get through that. I ended up having over 10,000 messages on Facebook, so I'm working my way through that right now. But the amount of support just meant the world to me. A lot of people don't understand how much it truly meant, and I still am grateful for it today. I think the hard part about the support, looking back on it now, was thinking about how many other people go through tragedies and don't get any support, like zero support. Like, people have tragedies in their life. There was this family that actually ended up in a full head-on collision, and the whole family passed away with a semi. And there's maybe like a couple messages to them saying we're sorry for your loss, to the parents. But I think as a human race, we should be better than that. I think we should be supporting people through every hardship in life, not just the major ones, but even the little ones, such as losing a job, losing a loved one. I think that support is something so crucial that we should be bound together about. And so for me, pondering back on the support of the accident, I think that that's a major piece that we can apply to ourselves and be more cognizant of is other people and the things that they're experiencing through life. In the hospital, I was determined to go back to Humboldt. For most people, that's the place they want to run away from. But for me, I wanted to go back to Humboldt. The amount that that community meant to me, the amount that that community needed to heal was grieving. I went to a elementary school later on after my first time going back to Humboldt, and the child, he was in grade 1, he was like, "You're a Bronco?" And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "I thought they're all dead." And I was like, oh my goodness, like this grade 1, 6-year-old can't even realize. He's like, and I was like, "No, they're all still here." He's like, "They have a team?" And I was like, "Yes." "Oh, I thought they were all dead again." And so for me, that was hard to take because it just shows how big of an impact it had. If a 6-year-old is telling me that all the Broncos are dead, then obviously it's had an impact on him. And so for me, going back to Humboldt right after the accident, that was a major, major thing I wanted to do for the community, for the ones that aren't here, for myself, for the other survivors that weren't able to go back. And so the first day out of the hospital, I got out of the hospital on Friday. I went back that Monday because it was a break, and I wanted to go to certain institutions like schools and radio service and the rink where people were actually working. So I ended up going back that Monday. And it was the hardest thing that I've had to go through, but I think it was probably the best thing. I went to the elementary school I volunteered at every Wednesday that whole year, and all the children, when I walked in, were like crying. And it was hard to see them crying because there was nothing I could do about it. It was like, I understand what you guys are going through, and I'm going to be here to help you grieve through this process. And that was the step that I took with them. And every place I went, the villa with the elderly people, to the radio station, to Special Olympics floor hockey that Monday night, all of them had the same type of feeling. And so it was the whole community affected. It wasn't just the 20 to 30-year-old population. It wasn't just the children. It was literally the whole community of Humboldt that was affected. And so for me, I ended up going back there, and I really wanted to make a difference and help the community heal while I was healing too. And for some of you, that's probably unbelievable. Like, why would I want to go back? But I honestly believe that giving back fuels the soul. And throughout the season, I ended up becoming a better person from giving back and being part of the community. And I truly believe after the accident that it was one of the main reasons that helped me heal from it, was giving back. If I could go and get a smile on one person's face and make their day, then that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't, oh, sorry about my injuries, or poor me, or poor this. It was like, what can I do to make other people feel better? And what can I do to help those people? And so I feel like giving back really fueled my soul and made me heal from the injuries. All my injuries ended up being healed by June 1st, and so less than 2 months. The only injury that wasn't healed is my brain injury, and it still is not healed today. But I had my first skate on June 1st, 2018, and let me tell you, that was something else. When I walked on the ice, it wasn't just me out there. It wasn't. There was 16 others with me on that ice surface. It wasn't just me. And this is the raw footage. No one's seen this. I really don't like to share these kind of moments, but I felt like I should share it here today. And so this is my first skate. It's a little bit rusty, but in the arena, they actually had a Humboldt Strong sign, and you can kind of see the bottom of it there, but the video ends up panning downward, so you really don't see it. But we had a Humboldt Strong sign, and it was created by a bunch of high school students that said, like, we need to do this to the arenas in Saskatoon, and so they created signs throughout all the arenas in Saskatoon. I'm not sure of other arenas, but yeah, they had one up there, and there's 16 others out there with me. It wasn't just me, and so I'll always have that moment for the rest of my life, and it'll always be something special and something that can never get taken away from me. Oh, there we go. Some of you guys might recognize me from the NHL awards. I know earlier today I was talking about it, and to be honest, I didn't want the media spotlight. I ended up doing the speech for the Humboldt Broncos at the 2018 NHL awards, and it was a daunting ask. I never really gave speeches before. I was more, for the diabetic community, I gave some speeches, but it was never a thank you speech or anything like that. So this was a new kind of area for me. And so the reason why I took on that role is because I wanted to step up and be a leader. I was assistant captain throughout the year, and I was always that leader in the dressing room, always that leader in the community, always that leader at home. I didn't change face. I was just who I am as a person. And so there's a lot of people that were suffering that didn't want to talk. We were bombarded by media, like bombarded by media. Like I had phone calls from literally all over the world. And so for me, I was like, what can I do to step up here and help these guys? And a lot of these guys didn't even want to go to the event because it was like too much media and exposure. And so I thought, well, I need to be the leader. I need to take on this role and be the voice, because people want to know how we're doing. People want to hear what's going on. And I feel like I can be this leader that I was all year. And since the accident happened, it's not going to change who I am or who I was as a person. I'm going to continue being Kaleb, the leader of the Humboldt Broncos. And so I ended up doing the speech, and it wasn't the easiest for sure. And the part that I think was hard about the whole media aspect about it was that everybody was asking the exact same questions. And you could have been like, hey, like I just had an interview yesterday, you can go watch that. But they had to have it for their own station. And so there was quite a bombardance of media people. I'm nothing against the media whatsoever. They portrayed the whole event and accident so awesome. And they did an amazing job making it for what it was and putting the right foot forward in the right light. Not once were we ever bad shamed. Not once was it ever a negative thing. Like, I'm very thankful that they turned it to something positive and turned into kind of way that people can give back and still have that team atmosphere and learn from it, in a sense. And so there's nothing really against it. It was just, wasn't the role that I wanted to take on, but I felt like I needed to. And that was where my leadership kind of had to step up. Like, okay, like you need to take this on, not to benefit yourself whatsoever, but to help the others. And so still today, like being up here in front of you guys, the reason why I do it, and people always ask, oh, why are you doing this? It's not for my personal gain or benefit, it's to help other people. It's to share my story so that hopefully you can take something from it and be like, okay, I'm going to apply this to my life. It's not for my benefit whatsoever. If it was, then I would be doing speeches every single day of the year. I rarely ever do speeches, and this is for to benefit other people. I continued after the accident to give back, and after the awards, I went to create some more diabetes. This is at Josie and myself at her school. I went to surprise her at her school. She actually just had a severe hypoglycemia event which means she had a low blood sugar, and it was severe enough that she had to get rushed in an ambulance to the hospital. And so I ended up going to her classroom and surprising her and welcoming her to the diabetes club. And it wasn't just these kind of events that helped me become healed and a better person. There's so many more events. There we go. I went to the Jdrf Walk, and so at the Jdrf Walk, I was doing lots of speeches, and I ended up giving a speech in Saskatoon, and this one little boy came up to me and was like, "You've changed my life." And that's where it really hit home to me, was how much of an effect I can have on a person. And a young boy that I never met, doesn't know me, he was 12, and he said, "You've changed my life." And so that's when I was like, you know what, this is bigger than me. Like, this is something that's bigger than myself. I went to Mark Trifley's camp. I kind of have the old rec hockey memories here, coming back, teaching kids the game, my love for it, my passion. I also attended every single Humboldt event. Like I said, I wanted to be a part of the community, and I literally was a part of that community. I still am. And so I attended every single event. This was at our first game of the new year, and they don't have they don't have the jerseys up in the rafters. Or I also decided to leave that out for a bit, but that was such a hard game. And every time I went back to Humboldt, there was a piece of me that was like, "Ooh, this hurts." But then there's another piece of me that was like, "I need this. This is what I need to do. This is something that helps me heal." And so I ended up flying. I was at York University. I ended up flying back to Humboldt for the game, and that was another part of the healing process, was going to the game and letting them play on. And I wanted that team to play. I wanted them to continue the trend of the Broncos. And there was talks of them not being a team, and I thought that was ridiculous. I think if I was in the accident and I was not here today, I'd want the people here to live their life to the fullest, continue on the trend, and to make Humboldt the best place possible, because they deserve it. So that's the way that I felt if I wasn't here, and so I wanted to make that the way that I am when I am here. I ended up being committed to York University before the accident, and currently I am at York University in Toronto here. And so I was committed to them in February of 2018, and we didn't announce it because we were kind of heading into the playoffs, and we didn't want to ruin any team chemistry or anything like that, and we felt like that can be saved for the end of the season and doesn't have to be announced right now. And so we kept it on the down low. It was only my assistant coach, Mark Cross, and my head coach, Darcy Hogan, and myself, and my parents, obviously, that knew about this commitment. I was enrolled in school and ready to go, and it got announced later on in May after the accident. And York still wanted me for who I am as a person. They knew that my injuries were very severe. I told them about all of them. I said how my brain injury and how I'm lucky to even know my name. And they said, "Whenever you're ready to come to York, we want you." They said, "We don't care about your hockey abilities. We know you're a great hockey player. We want you for the person that you are on our campus, and to be a part of our team, to be more than just the hockey player." They said, "We love this about you." So one of the rules before I committed to them was that I wanted to install the Dahlgren's diabetes there. And they were full taking it on, and they wanted it. They said, "Yes, like that's what we want. Like we want all of you, not just part of you." And so I ended up going against the doctor's orders, and the doctors told me that if I would attend school, I'd fail. They said, "There's no way, based on your injuries, that you can even go to school and pass." So I ended up going against their orders, and it wasn't an easy process, that's for sure. But this is a photo of my first diabetes of the York University diabetes, and it was actually in Humboldt. And so it's something very special to have a diabetes and have a York University diabetes, but to even have the first one ever inducted in Humboldt, it just couldn't get much better than that. So it was in Humboldt, and we were on the Mark Cross Humboldt Strong Tour. And we ended up coming through Saskatchewan to play against the University of Regina, University of Saskatchewan, and University of Calgary. And so I was able to have my first ever Dye Beauty right where it all started, back in the hometown of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. And this is also at York University. I had a Dye Beauty and a Dye of Big Beauty inducted into it this past year as well. And so the Dye of Big Beauty is a program to help mentor the children that are in that in-between stage of children and adult and young adult in that teen phase, to move them into it and to let them create their own ideas, their own way of giving back, and to be a big for a little Dye Beauty. So I was able to do that as well. The last initiative that I've done giving back is called Capping the Cold. It's something very small but very large. There's tons of homeless people in Toronto and GTA area, and for me, being from Saskatchewan, I know what it's like to be cold. Trust me. And so coming here to Toronto, the winters aren't as harsh, and there's still a lot of people that are homeless. And there's actually more people, of course, in Toronto area that are homeless than there are in Saskatchewan. And so for me, I felt like I needed to do something. My couple teammates and myself ended up creating Capping the Cold, and it was to put a cap on the cold, literally and figuratively. It was toques, mitts, and socks. And so we ended up raising $1,000 for that, and we bought all new toques, mitts, and socks for the homeless, and wanted to help them as well get through this winter season and be there for their loved ones. So, like I said, currently I'm at York University. I had a actually very successful year last year, and this past last week, I was named Academic All-Canadian, and thank you. Thank you. And it's awarded to a university student athlete who has an 80% or higher average in their sport and academic studies throughout the year. So last year I ended up having a higher than 80 average and in a full course load as well. And so I ended up telling the doctors my marks when I went back, and I went to the neurologist. I was like, I didn't fail. But it just goes to show that if you have the drive, the commitment, the work ethic, that you can pursue your dreams, and you don't have to let people tell you that you can't. I'm sure everybody in this room has been told that they can't do something. I'm sure of it. And so I had to build up resiliency because of the diabetes aspect, that maybe with the accident that I already had that built into me, the resilience to come back from these adversities and these challenges I face. And so it was just another step in being like, hey, like, this isn't right. Like, I can do something better than this. And so I'm honestly so grateful to have all the supports that I did. And it wasn't easy, I'll tell you that for free, but it was worth it. And if there's one thing I could leave here today is that everybody does have their own adversities. And it's truly how you handle it and come back from it. And so for me, I've took some steps, and I've learned a lot throughout this whole process. And I'm very grateful for all the circumstances I've been given, the opportunities I've been given, the love, the support, the friendships, the camaraderies. Even with the ones that aren't here today, I am so grateful that I have them in my life. Think about it. There's billions of people here on this earth today. Billions. And even be in this room with everybody right now is something so special that a lot of people take for granted. And so the fact that I had a relationship with 29 of those people on the bus and those 16 especially aren't here is something that no one can take away from me. And it's something that I've learned a lot from them, they've learned a lot from me, and something very special. So be grateful every day that you're here, and be grateful for those people that are around you in your life. And I just want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for having me here. It's truly something special, and I hope you guys can take something away from today.